So I'm going to start. The title of my presentation is my presentation is going to focus on the role of businesses, ethnic food, and cultural festivals in the process of placemaking. So I'll start with a definition of placemaking that fits the context of my own research. Placemaking promotes health, happiness, and well-being through collaborative design and management of public spaces. In order to come up with successful projects that with placemaking, there are two key factors that are really, really important. The first one is the community involvement. The community has to be part of the entire process from beginning to end, from planning, design, and implementation. The communication has to be there. Also, there is a need for the design of cultural design of places that reflect the cultural and social and economic relevance. Cities are changing, population demographics are changing as well. So it's important that the places that we plan and design reflect those changes as well. So, but what is important about food, restaurants, supermarkets, and festivals? So if you look at these three different factors, they contribute to the cultural preservation in communities, the view cultural identity for those who live there. Also, they contribute to social cohesion. They create vibrant, inclusive spaces that attract more businesses, more people to those areas. And most important, they contribute to the economic development of cities in the neighborhoods where they're located. So in addition, restaurants, supermarkets, and festivals, they act as buffers for new immigrants and cities. They provide social support, but most important, they act as sources of information and referrals for someone who moves to a new city. They're not familiar with what the resources are available there, so they depend on those places to acquire all the information. In terms of the role of regulate supermarkets, the first point is they provide access to native food. They're able to preserve the cultural traditions for those immigrants from to a new country. Again, economic growth. Because they're very entrepreneurial, immigrants tend to contribute to the local economy. They create jobs, even though most of the employment they generate are family members of their own community. They're also putting back resources to the local neighborhoods. Again, the most important part, they create social neighborhoods. Social neighborhoods, they contribute to the economic vitality of the city. Most of these places also, they function as a place where they can acquire some information, places to exchange. It provides an opportunity for people to, they act as community centers because they provide the resources that some of the community centers are able to provide. So these ethnic businesses, they provide all the information required. I'm going to show you a few case studies that kind of illustrate my points here. The first one is Radiola Hispana in Clark Fulton Corridor in Cleveland, Ohio. How many have been to Cleveland? Are you guys familiar with this site? It's very close to, I forgot, it's not the Cleveland Clinic, but the idea here is this community priority was put together to generate a cultural hub for this neighborhood. So most of the Latino communities here that people from Puerto Rico. So they identify an area for development. So it's pretty much a community initiative that's going to focus on commercial and residential projects to enhance the quality of the area. So what they did, the leadership recognized at the very beginning of the process, if they wanted to attract more business and more residents of the area, the first thing they needed to address was the physical environment. So they focused on physical design first than anything else. So they decided to focus on the safety of the street. As you can see, they clean up the street, they provide lighting. The idea is to make it this attractive for new business and new residents. Also, it shows credibility. It shows the resident that this is something that's going to happen. This is the first project, so it's going to grow much, much bigger. So in addition to all these strategies, I mean, they also came out with some challenges. The first one, there was limited access to capital for this type of venues, businesses. Also, they have to deal with gentrification as well, in the lack the support from local funds. So what the community leadership did actually, they capitalized on the presence of community anchor institutions in the area. In this case was the Cleveland Museum and the Cleveland Clinic. What they do pretty much, the anchor institutions, they have to subsidize some of the expenses and kind of educate people about the benefits. Also, they promote some of the policies that are going to support this type of projects. But based on my research, I also wanted to try to understand if the things that were happening in American cities were happening in other parts of the world. I was fortunate enough to study a city that's very diverse. I spent a couple of years in Berlin, Germany. So the idea here, I wanted to see what's happening with those immigrant communities moving to Berlin. The same things happening here as they're happening in the United States. So I studied few neighbors in Berlin. The reason I chose Berlin that's because it's about 4 million people living there, and about 23% is either a foreigner, an immigrant, or a refugee. So perhaps a really present a really good case study for me. So one of the case studies that I focused on was this case study is called the Rudy Center in Berlin. You might not be aware there's a large community from Vietnam in Berlin. The Vietnamese community came in the 1970s through contract workers once the Berlin Wall fell down. They stayed there. There were about 60,000 of them. So what they did, they renovated an entire warehouse district. It's about 500 hectares within the city of Berlin. So they have this type of businesses. It's not only for Vietnamese people. You can see it kind of help to showcase other cultures of people from India, Bangladesh, and China. So this is the largest Asian supermarket. And it's not only creating jobs, this is a cultural center in Berlin, and it attracts a lot of tourists as well. Also, looking at the role of food in places like this, I mean, it provides access to safe food. I mean, it provides access to healthy food. Most of these places, most of these ethnic neighborhoods, they have really good supermarkets that provide access to healthy food to the residents. Usually, they only have access to junk food or fast food. They usually located in food deserts in most of the cities, so they provide really good source of healthy food as well. So this is a case study from Columbus, Ohio. This is a supermarket. It's called Plaza Tapatia. This is a Latino supermarket that offers food and healthy food. One thing that was really important during the COVID situation, this supermarket kept open, so they provide all the services that they needed. That was the most important part. This supermarket is located in West Columbus, one of the most depressed areas of the city of Columbus, and is located next to a abandoned shopping mall. This shopping mall is been abandoned for the last 20 years. So what they did, they took over one of the strip malls across from the mall, and after 10 years, they were so successful. After 10 years, they rehabilitated the entire area and they built a brand new supermarket and attracted most business to the area. So the reason this type of businesses move from these dilapidated areas, that's because accessibility and resources and low rent. So at the end, this supermarket ends up rehabilitating the entire neighborhood. And look at a similar case study in Berlin. I look at what a street is called Sonnenallee Street. Is located in the Neukölln neighborhood of Berlin. This is one of the largest Middle Eastern communities. I mean, and what they do here is similar to what's happening in Columbus, Ohio. This place actually functions as community center. You can see dozens and dozens of restaurants where they provide access to healthy food and supermarkets to create a very lively neighborhood in the area. In comparing both the case study in Berlin and looking at and Detroit, where was one of my case studies as well. I mean, these places function the same way. They have all this ethnic supermarket and then ethnic convenience store. They generate jobs in the area. They provide access to healthy food for neighbors. But also, the main difference that I found out between two different places is in Berlin, these people are still segregated to specific neighborhoods. In the United States, we're a little more advanced. Immigrants, they can, because they can reach upper mobility, they can buy a home and move back to another neighborhood. But in Berlin, because of the housing situation, that's a whole different topic. But definitely, these immigrants are still segregated to very specific neighborhoods within the city. Another thing that I wanted to look at was what's the role of cultural festivals in cities. It's similar to the restaurants and the supermarket. They provide a really good way to learn about other cultures, and they highlight the cultural diversity of cities. I mean, and as well, they provide urban renewals. Where some of the places where these festivals are taking place, they tend to be renovated and rebuilt because of this type of festivals. They provide economic boosts for cities. They generate jobs, and most important, they provide social strength for community members as well. One thing that I noticed talking to people going to this festival, they realize they provide a safe space. Nowadays, being an immigrant, a refugee, has such a negative connotation. Talking to people say, I can feel safe in these places because I can sing, I can dance, I can be part, and I don't have to be afraid. So that's one of the benefits, major benefits of festivals in cities. Just to present the case study, this is the Latino Festival in Columbus. It takes place every summer. I think it's in August. And even though Columbus, Ohio is not considered a Latino destination, if you look at the population of Columbus, it's about a million people. Just the city, not the metro area. The metro area is about 2 million people, but the Latino population is only 60% of the entire population in the metro area. So this Latino festival has been very successful. The reason for that, it draws people not only from Ohio, also the entire surrounding states. So if you look at back in 2010 when they started with 35,000 people, only 11 million. I mean, look at the change, and this is just from 2023. It went up to 160,000 people. This takes place during a weekend, so the idea is it generates lots of jobs, it generates, community involvement. So, and again, it is an opportunity for those who are not familiar with Latino culture, especially in the Midwest. They have such a negative connotation. It gives an opportunity to learn about the culture, the food, the customs. Okay. In the same in the same way, looking at what was happening in Germany and Berlin, they have this amazing festival. Like I said, Berlin is one of the most diverse cities with like 1/4 of the population being foreign. So what they did here, they have this festival. It's called the Carnival of Culture. This takes place in, I think it's in June every year. And one thing that has done actually in this summer actually I had the opportunity to attend this festival. There were 650 people, 650,000 people came to this festival just over a weekend. It has become a major event for the city and the region as well. And the idea here is not to highlight or showcase one specific group, one ethnic group. The idea here is to show how diverse the entire city is. And people get to know about different cultures through their food, their music. This is an amazing place to showcase diversity in urban areas, not to mention the economic value. The last thing I wanted to mention here in this slide, I mean, the point that I wanted to make here is because we have these restaurants, supermarkets, and festivals, they generate a lot of foot traffic, and at the end, they end up creating very notable communities. For example, this is from Detroit, Mexican town. This is my case study in Cleveland. And this is also Mexican town in Detroit. And this is for my case study in Berlin. So the idea is because so many people coming here, the city needs to start thinking about providing the amenities that are necessary for people to actually enjoy livable streets. And lastly, what do we need to do to actually, what are some final thoughts for this one? The first one is we need to focus on the social strengths of our communities. We need to make sure that everyone is involved in the process, like I said earlier, from the planning, design, and implementation as well, so that we can generate successful projects. Also, capacity building is important. We need to be able to promote equitable resources. You want to train people about how to start a new business, you need to provide the resources to make this possible. Also, it's really important to address the physical environment in order to revitalize our neighborhoods. And in order to revitalize, it's important that the things that we planners and designers need to think about, these places need to reflect the local communities. And the most important thing here is leadership. Most of these places, nothing happens, there's no leadership. This is the leadership from the case study in Cleveland. And if you look at our website, they're very well prepared. And you look at what does it take to create a successful place, what is necessary to create placemaking. They have gone through every single point. You look at their website, the type of events they generate, this very well thought process. So I think you need to have leadership to make these things happen. Thank you.